Prologue. The relentless sun beat down on the jungle, casting long shadows as Kale's tribe moved cautiously through the underbrush. The air was thick with the smells of damp earth and the distant roars of creatures too large to comprehend. Life was a fragile thread here, with each step taking them closer to an inevitable clash with the monsters that ruled this land. Kale, ever vigilant, led the group. His sharp eyes scanned the tree line, alert for any movement. The jungle was alive with sounds, animals calling, the rustle of leaves, but over the years, Kale had learned to hear the dangers that others could not. His hand tightened on the rough-hewn spear in his grasp, muscles tense. Behind him, Lyra followed, their infant son nestled against her back. Her brow was furrowed with the same concern that gnawed at Kale. There was no safety in this place, only temporary survival. They had managed to avoid the great beasts for days, but they all knew it was only a matter of time. And then it came, the screech. Kale froze. His blood ran cold. Velociraptors. They had been tracked. He could feel it in the vibrations underfoot, the subtle shift in the wind that carried the smell of the predators. Kale turned to face the tribe. Circle, now. His voice was sharp, cutting through the thick jungle air. The tribe reacted instantly, forming a defensive ring, spears outward, eyes wide with fear. The raptors appeared, slicing through the foliage like specters, their clawed feet barely making a sound as they prowled. There were 7, maybe 8. Kale's heart pounded in his chest. There was no way they could survive this. The raptors began to circle, the yellow eyes gleaming, low growls reverberating through the air as they prepared to strike. Far below the tumultuous ocean surface, deep in the darkness where no human eyes could see, a vast alien ship hummed quietly. Its surface, sleek and black, blended seamlessly with the surrounding water. It had been there for so long, a silent observer of the earth above. Inside the ship, the Tsar, an ancient alien race, monitored the events unfolding on the surface. The command room was a vast, metallic space filled with holographic projections of Earth's prehistoric landscape. The Council of Tsar elders stood in a circle, their elongated forms wrapped in shimmering robes of iridescent light. Their faces, angular and emotionless, reflected the cold logic of their race. Before them floated a glowing image of Kale's tribe, cornered by the raptors. The image flickered and zoomed in, capturing every detail of the desperate struggle. The humans are nearing extinction, one of the elders remarked, its voice reverberating in the still air. They cannot survive the dominance of these predators much longer. The development is slow, another added, its eyes fixed on the image. They lack the tools to defend themselves, their intellect primitive. If we do not intervene, they will be erased from the timeline. A third elder, older and with eyes deep as the void, raised a hand. But is it wise to interfere? This world has balanced itself on the conflict between prey and predator. What justification do we have to disrupt that balance? There was a pause as the council considered this. The Tsar were not known for emotion or empathy. Their species had existed for eons, observing the rise and fall of civilizations across the universe, intervening only when necessary to preserve certain evolutionary paths. But something about the humans was different. Their potential, though still buried deep, was undeniable. Their extinction will mean the loss of a species capable of great growth, the eldest elder spoke again. They may one day reach beyond the stars. But not if they perish here. The room was silent, save for the hum of the ship's core. We must intervene, the leader finally declared, its voice carrying the weight of finality. But we must also ensure they remember none of this. It is not their time to understand the universe. With a wave of the elder's hand, a massive hologram of the Tsar ship emerged from the center of the council, hovering above the ocean. The ship's engines hummed to life, and in a blur of light, it began its ascent toward the surface. Kale's grip tightened on his spear as the raptors closed in. His tribe's defenses were weakening, and they all knew it. The end was near. And then, without warning, the air above them began to change. A low hum filled the space, growing louder, making the ground tremble. The raptors paused, their predatory focus shifting as they sensed something beyond their understanding. Kale turned his eyes to the sky, and what he saw stole the breath from his lungs. From the ocean in the distance, an enormous form began to rise. Its surface shimmered as water cascaded off its black, seamless hull. The large form moved with impossible grace, emerging from the depths of the ocean until it hovered in the sky above them, blotting out the sun. The tribe gasped in awe and terror. The raptors, momentarily stunned, screeched in confusion. Without a sound, beams of light shot down from the underside of the ship. Each beam enveloping the raptors, freezing them mid-movement. The creatures writhed in the light, but they could not escape. Slowly, the beams lifted them off the ground, pulling them into the belly of the alien ship. Kale watched, unable to comprehend what was happening. Around him, his people were frozen in shock, their faces reflecting the strange glow of the beams. The sky was alive with light, the predators vanishing into it. Within moments, the raptors were gone, their snarling and screeching silenced as they were sucked into the ship. The air felt strangely calm, the tension dissipated as quickly as it had come. Kale staggered backward, his mind reeling. What force had just saved them? Who, what, were these beings? But before he could process it, a sharp sensation filled his head. A voice, or perhaps a thought, whispered through his mind. Forget. The word pulsed in his consciousness, growing louder until it drowned out everything else. Kale struggled to hold onto the memory of the ship, of the raptors disappearing, but it was slipping, fading from his grasp like water through his fingers. His vision blurred. Around him, the others were collapsing to their knees, their expressions dazed, as if they too were being pulled into the same fog. Lyra's eyes met Kale's for a brief moment, filled with the same confusion, before they glazed over, her memories already being rewritten. Kale's last coherent thought before the darkness swallowed him was that something monumental had just happened, and he would never know what. Across the globe, more Tsar ships emerged from the skies, their sleek forms hovering ominously above every region. One by one, they systematically captured every living dinosaur, beaming the colossal creatures aboard their vessels. No corner of the Earth was left untouched. As the operation neared its completion, the Tsar turned their attention to the humans who had witnessed the extraordinary event. With a pulse of energy, they erased all memories of the dinosaurs' disappearance, wiping away every trace of the truth. The humans, powerless to resist, forgot what they had seen, their minds altered as if the event had never occurred. When Kale awoke, the jungle was quiet. The raptors were gone, but there was no sign of the battle that had nearly destroyed them. No sign of the ship. Kale looked around at his people, all of whom were slowly rising to their feet. There was a strange calmness in the air, as though they had all simply fallen asleep and woken up in a dream. Lyra was by his side, holding their son, her face serene. But something gnawed at Kale, deep in his bones, a sense of loss that he couldn't explain. Something had been taken from him, something important. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't remember. Answer, the tribe moved on, oblivious to the invisible hand that had saved them, unaware that their world had been changed forever. After the Tsar had successfully beamed up the last of the dinosaurs, they moved swiftly to cover their tracks. From the edge of Earth's atmosphere, the alien ship deployed a series of high-energy beams that ignited the sky in a fiery display, mimicking the devastation of an asteroid impact. They precisely targeted the Yucatan Peninsula, ensuring the creation of a massive crater where no real impact had occurred. As the ground trembled and the atmosphere filled with smoke and debris, the Tsar orchestrated a false catastrophe, a spectacle that would be etched into Earth's geology and memory for millennia. To cement this illusion, the Tsar seeded the area with carefully selected elements, including iridium and other rare metals that were typically associated with asteroid impact. These traces were meticulously embedded deep into the layers of Earth's crust, waiting to be discovered by future human scientists. With every fossil unearthed and every rock analyzed, humanity would unknowingly reinforce the narrative the Tsar had crafted. Over time, the story of a massive asteroid causing the dinosaurs' extinction would become the cornerstone of scientific belief, a perfect cover for the truth of what had really happened. The Tsar had ensured that their intervention, and the existence of the dinosaurs beyond Earth, would remain a secret locked in history.